Have you ever wondered how a person can become even stronger after death? London, summer of 1305. The city holds its breath. In the air there's sweat, smoke, and something else. The scent of fear. Thousands of people have been on the streets since early morning. Children on their father's shoulders, vendors selling pies to the crowd, laughter mingling with anticipation. But no one has come for a festival. They've come for a man who once made kings tremble, now bound and broken. His name was William Wallace. To England, a savage and a traitor. To Scotland, the very spirit of freedom. Yet what was about to happen to him that August day had nothing to do with justice. It was about dominance, not just destroying a man, but erasing the very idea he stood for. And the methods to be used were among the most brutal in history. Let me ask you something. How do you kill a man so that his death becomes a lesson for centuries to come? King Edward had an answer, and that answer was terrifying enough to haunt the dreams of all who witnessed it. Medieval Scotland was a hell. Kings died without heirs. Nobles shifted loyalty with the wind. And across the border, King Edward, known as Longshanks, waited like a vulture. When Scotland stumbled, he struck. Wallace was no prince. He wasn't born into nobility. He was the son of an ordinary knight. But when the English slaughtered his family, something inside him broke, or perhaps awakened. In 1297, at the Battle of Stirling Bridge, Wallace taught the English army a lesson they would never forget. His tactics were bold, ruthless, and deadly effective. For a brief moment, everyone wondered, could Scotland truly be free? But freedom always comes with a price, and England would never forget the name William Wallace. For years, Wallace fought not only armies, but silence itself. Most Scottish nobles had knelt. Wallace never did. He became a shadow moving through forests and fire, a legend. Until one day someone whispered his name where the wrong ears could hear it. Betrayal always comes quietly, doesn't it? Sir John Menteith, a Scotsman turned collaborator, handed Wallace over. There was no heroic final battle, only ropes, chains, and silence. England had its prize, but King Edward would not settle for mere capture. He wanted a message written in blood. The road to London was no transport, it was torment. For weeks, Wallace was dragged through English towns, covered in filth, spat on by crowds, paraded like a trophy. But he never begged. He kept his head high. They say he looked into the eyes of every face that cheered his fall, one by one, as if to memorize them. The English called him a monster, but the way they treated him revealed who the real monsters were. August 23rd, 1305, Westminster Hall. Wallace stood before judges who had already written his fate. The charges: treason, murder, blasphemy. Here lies the cruel irony. How could he be a traitor to a king he had never sworn allegiance to? In his final words, he said, "I could not be a traitor to a king I never knew." The court roared, not in pity, but in judgment. A verdict long decided. The sentence was horrific. He would be hanged, but not killed. Cut down while still breathing. His entrails burned before his eyes, his body quartered. His head dipped in tar and mounted on London Bridge. This was not justice. It was a performance written in blood and cruelty. Dawn broke over London, but the air was heavy with gloom. The city had been preparing for days. Wooden platforms were being built. Vendors sold roasted meat. Children clung to their mothers' hands. People had not gathered for justice, but for entertainment. What they were about to witness was not an execution. It was medieval theater. Cruelty turned into spectacle. Wallace was tied to a hurdle and dragged from the Tower of London through the busiest streets. The cobblestones tore his skin apart. Every bump opened a new wound. The crowd roared. Some mocked, some laughed. But Wallace's eyes refused to break. And there, the most horrifying execution in history began. He was lifted and hanged by the neck, but not to die, only to choke. As his body shook, the crowd held its breath. Then the executioner drew his knife. With slow, deliberate cruelty, he cut open Wallace's abdomen and removed his entrails. Wallace remained conscious, his eyes open, his face pale, his mouth bleeding. One by one, the organs were lifted into the air and thrown into the fire. As Wallace watched, the crowd froze between horror and fascination. Some turned away, others cheered, but all knew this was no ordinary death. At last, when his breath turned to trembling gasps, the executioner raised his axe. With one clean stroke, the head fell. Blood spilled. The crowd erupted in cheers. But it wasn't over. Even in death, Wallace was denied peace. His arms and legs were severed, his body quartered. His head was mounted on London Bridge, staring down at the river for years. The remaining parts of his body were sent across Scotland, to Newcastle, Berwick, Stirling, and Perth. These were not random choices. It was a war of messages: defy England, and this will be your fate. Thousands cheered, laughed, and watched. King Edward believed he had ended a rebellion, but he had done something far worse. He had created a martyr. Wallace's death did not silence Scotland, it ignited it. His broken body became a map of fury, not fear. In the north, whispers turned into roars. Robert the Bruce rose, and the war for Scotland began. What Edward tried to destroy became Scotland's battle cry. Wallace wore no crown and commanded no grand army. He was just one man who refused to kneel. His death was meant to crush spirits, but instead, his courage was carved into the bones of a nation. On every battlefield, soldiers whispered his name. In every tavern, fathers told their sons about the man who was torn apart, yet never surrendered. Centuries later, his name still echoes. In stone statues, in the ruins of battlefields, in the songs of freedom. He did not live to see Scotland rise. But without his fall, Scotland might never have stood. In the heart of London, years later, his tarred head still watched from that bridge. A face made to warn had become something else entirely. A symbol of defiance, a ghost that refused to fade. William Wallace did not simply die. He was reborn in every generation that chose resistance over submission. That is why his execution was far more terrifying than you ever imagined. You've seen how a man became a legend. But the real question is, did King Edward truly win? Or did he create his own defeat? If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like and subscribe. Darker truths from history's deepest corners are yet to come.